At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe was a continent on edge. The great powers, driven by a potent mix of nationalism, imperial ambitions, and fear, had forged a complex web of alliances. These alliances, intended to deter aggression, would tragically become the very mechanisms that dragged Europe into the abyss of war. On one side stood the Triple Entente, an alliance formed between France, Great Britain, and Russia. France, still smarting from its defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, sought to contain German expansion. Britain, wary of any power challenging its naval dominance, saw in Germany a rising threat. Russia, eager to expand its influence in the Balkans, found common cause with France and Britain against the growing might of Germany and its allies. On the other side stood the Triple Alliance, comprising Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Germany, under the ambitious Kaiser Wilhelm II, aimed to assert its dominance on the European continent. Austria-Hungary, a sprawling empire grappling with internal nationalist tensions, relied on German support. Italy, though allied with Germany and Austria-Hungary, harbored its own expansionist ambitions that would ultimately lead it to switch sides. These alliances, while seemingly creating a balance of power, in reality heightened tensions. Each nation, bound by treaty to its allies, became increasingly suspicious and fearful of the other. This atmosphere of mistrust and paranoia created a powder keg primed for ignition. On June 28, 1914, the unthinkable happened. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, by Gavrilo Princip, a young Serbian nationalist. The assassination sent shockwaves across Europe, pushing the already simmering tensions to a boiling point. Austria-Hungary, determined to crush Serbian nationalism and solidify its control over the Balkans, saw the assassination as a pretext for war. Germany, eager to assert its dominance and support its ally, issued Austria-Hungary a blank check, pledging unconditional support for whatever action Vienna decided to take. Austria-Hungary, emboldened by Germany's unwavering support, delivered a harsh ultimatum to Serbia. The ultimatum, deliberately designed to be unacceptable, demanded Serbia's acquiescence to Austrian oversight of its internal affairs. Serbia, backed by Russia, attempted to negotiate but ultimately refused to accept the ultimatum in its entirety. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, setting in motion a chain reaction that would engulf all of Europe. Russia, honoring its alliance with Serbia, began mobilizing its vast army. Germany, bound by its treaty with Austria-Hungary, viewed Russia's mobilization as an act of war and declared war on Russia on August 1st. Gap 3S. As the declarations of war echoed across Europe, smaller nations found themselves caught in the escalating conflict. Belgium, despite its neutrality, became the first battleground of the war, with its cities and countryside turning into war zones. The invasion of Belgium not only drew Great Britain into the conflict, but also galvanized public opinion against Germany. Meanwhile, the Ottoman Empire, seeking to regain lost territories and restore its former glory, aligned itself with the Central Powers, opening up new fronts in the Middle East. Italy, initially part of the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary, chose to remain neutral, carefully weighing its options. The war, now involving not just the great powers but also smaller nations and empires, began to spread beyond Europe, setting the stage for a truly global conflict. Gap 3S. As the war spread, the once peaceful landscapes of Europe transformed into brutal battlefields. Trenches were dug across the Western Front, stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, creating a stagnant and deadly no-man's land. Soldiers, now entrenched in these dugouts, faced the horrors of modern warfare: machine guns, poison gas, and relentless artillery bombardments. The Eastern Front, though less static, saw its own share of devastating battles as massive armies clashed across vast territories. The war was no longer confined to political maneuverings. It had become a brutal and relentless struggle for survival. The human cost began to mount, with countless lives lost and entire regions ravaged by the conflict. Gap 3S. As the battles raged on the front lines, the home fronts of the warring nations also began to transform. Governments swiftly implemented conscription to bolster their armies, and industries were repurposed to support the war effort. Factories that once produced consumer goods now churned out weapons, ammunition, and military supplies. Civilians, especially women, stepped into roles traditionally held by men, taking on jobs in factories, transportation, and even agriculture to keep their nations running. Propaganda campaigns were launched to maintain public morale and ensure continued support for the war. Posters, films, and speeches urged citizens to contribute to the war effort in any way they could. The war was no longer just a distant conflict, it had permeated every aspect of daily life, creating a sense of unity and shared purpose, but also a growing fatigue and disillusionment as the toll of the conflict became increasingly apparent. With Germany's declaration of war on Russia, the intricate web of alliances began to unravel at an alarming speed. France, honoring its treaty with Russia, declared war on Germany on August 3. Germany, facing a two-front war, implemented the Schlieffen Plan, a military strategy that involved a rapid invasion of neutral Belgium to knock France out of the war before turning its full might against Russia. Germany's invasion of Belgium, a violation of Belgian neutrality, outraged Great Britain, which declared war on Germany on August 4. Within a week, all of the great powers of Europe were at war, marking the beginning of a conflict that would forever change the course of history. Gap 3S. As the battles raged on land, the seas became another critical theater of war. The British Royal Navy, the most powerful naval force in the world, established a blockade to cut off supplies to Germany. This blockade aimed to strangle the German economy and weaken its military capabilities. In response, Germany unleashed its fleet of U-boats, or submarines, targeting Allied shipping lanes and aiming to disrupt the flow of supplies to Britain and France. The war at sea took a heavy toll on both sides. Merchant ships and civilian vessels were caught in the crossfire, leading to significant loss of life and resources. The sinking of the RMS Lusitania by a German U-boat in 1915, which resulted in the deaths of over 1,000 civilians, including Americans, escalated tensions and swayed public opinion against Germany. Naval battles, such as the Battle of Jutland in 1916, showcased the might of the British and German navies. Though the battle was indecisive, it demonstrated the strategic importance of naval power in the war. The war at sea was a relentless struggle for control of the crucial supply lines that sustained the war efforts on land, adding another layer of complexity to a conflict that was already devastating on an unprecedented scale. As the war raged on land and sea, the skies above Europe became a new battlefield. World War I marked the first major conflict to see significant use of aircraft in combat. Initially used for reconnaissance, airplanes quickly evolved into weapons of war, equipped with machine guns and bombs. Dogfights between fighter pilots became legendary, with aces like the Red Baron capturing the public's imagination. These aerial duels were not just about skill but survival, as the life expectancy of a World War I pilot was alarmingly short. The air war introduced new tactics and technologies that forever changed the nature of warfare. Observation balloons used for artillery spotting became prime targets. Bombing raids on enemy infrastructure and cities aimed to break the morale of the civilian population and disrupt supply chains. While the impact of air power in World War I was limited compared to later conflicts, it set the stage for the future of military aviation. The skies, once a symbol of freedom, became yet another domain dominated by the relentless and destructive force of war. The air war added a new dimension to the conflict, showcasing human ingenuity and bravery, but also the increasing mechanization and impersonal nature of modern warfare. As the years dragged on, the toll of the Great War became unbearable. Millions of lives had been lost, and entire landscapes had been scarred beyond recognition. The relentless advance of technology had turned the conflict into a war of attrition, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. In 1917, the tide began to turn. The entry of the United States into the war provided the Allies with fresh troops and much-needed resources. Meanwhile, internal strife weakened the Central Powers. In Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution led to the withdrawal of Russian forces from the Eastern Front, allowing Germany to focus its efforts in the West. Despite these shifts, the fighting continued with brutal intensity. The spring offensive of 1918 was Germany's last desperate attempt to break the deadlock. It initially met with success but eventually faltered as Allied forces, bolstered by American reinforcements, launched a counteroffensive. By the fall of 1918, the Central Powers were crumbling. Bulgaria, the Ottoman Empire, and Austria-Hungary all sought armistices. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., the guns fell silent. An armistice was signed, bringing an end to the hostilities. The war had left Europe in ruins. Political boundaries were redrawn, empires collapsed, and a generation was marked by the horrors they had witnessed. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, aimed to ensure lasting peace, but instead sowed the seeds of future conflict. The war may have ended, but its impact reverberated across the globe for decades. The Treaty of Versailles, while intended to establish peace, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, fostering resentment and economic hardship. The political map of Europe was redrawn, with the collapse of empires like Austro-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire leading to the creation of new nations. The human cost was staggering: millions dead, countless more wounded, and entire generations scarred by the horrors of trench warfare. Cities lay in ruins, economies were shattered, and the influenza pandemic of 1918 further compounded the suffering. The League of Nations was formed in the hope of preventing future conflicts, but its effectiveness was limited. As the world struggled to rebuild, seeds of discontent and unresolved grievances lingered, setting the stage for future turmoil. The aftermath of the Great War was a period of reflection and mourning, but also a time of profound change and upheaval. It was a harsh reminder of the devastating consequences of global conflict, a lesson that the world would continue to grapple with throughout the 20th century.
The rise of city-states in Mesopotamia marked a turning point in human history. Around 3000 BCE, these early civilizations clashed over resources and territory. Bronze weapons, chariots, and organized armies emerged. Battles, though primitive, were fierce and brutal. Victory meant survival, while defeat often resulted in enslavement or annihilation. These early conflicts established a pattern of warfare that would persist for millennia. Early Mesopotamian kings boasted of their victories in elaborate carvings and inscriptions. These records, etched in stone, provide glimpses into their motivations and the nature of warfare in this era. They reveal a world where power was paramount and conflict was a constant threat. The need for strong defenses and powerful allies was paramount. The seeds of future empires were sown in these early clashes. The Akkadian Empire, under Sargon the Great, emerged as the first major power in the region. Sargon's conquests, fueled by superior military organization and tactics, demonstrated the importance of strategy and logistics. His empire, though short-lived, set a precedent for future rulers. It showed the potential of military might to reshape the political landscape. The rise and fall of empires in ancient Mesopotamia offer valuable lessons. They highlight the cyclical nature of conflict and the importance of adapting to new technologies and tactics. The story of these early civilizations serves as a reminder of the enduring human capacity for both cooperation and conflict. It is a legacy that continues to shape our world today. The transition from bronze to iron weaponry had a profound impact on warfare. Iron, more readily available and durable, allowed for the mass production of weapons. This technological shift coincided with the rise of new empires and military powers. The Assyrians, armed with iron swords and a reputation for ruthlessness, forged a vast empire. The Assyrians understood the psychological impact of warfare. They used terror as a weapon, deliberately targeting civilians and leaving behind a trail of destruction. Their cruelty was intended to break the spirit of their enemies and discourage rebellion. While effective in the short term, their brutality sowed the seeds of resentment and ultimately contributed to their downfall. The rise of the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great marked a departure from the brutality of the Assyrians. Cyrus, known for his tolerance and strategic brilliance, united vast territories through diplomacy and military prowess. He understood that true power lay not just in military strength, but also in the loyalty of his subjects. The Persians excelled in logistics and communication, essential for maintaining their vast empire. They developed an extensive network of roads and a courier system, allowing for the swift movement of troops and information. Their military innovations, coupled with a more sophisticated approach to governance, laid the foundation for centuries of Persian dominance. The Classical Age witnessed the rise of Greece and Rome, each leaving an indelible mark on the history of warfare. The Greeks, known for their discipline and tactical innovations, triumphed against the Persian Empire in the Greco-Persian Wars. The Battle of Marathon, where a smaller Athenian force routed a much larger Persian army, showcased the effectiveness of Greek hoplite warfare. The Peloponnesian War, a conflict between Athens and Sparta, highlighted the devastating consequences of internal strife. This protracted war, fueled by ambition and mistrust, weakened the Greek city-states and paved the way for their eventual conquest by Macedonia. It stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of division and the enduring allure of power. Alexander the Great, King of Macedon, revolutionized warfare with his strategic brilliance and charismatic leadership. He conquered vast territories, extending his empire from Greece to India. Alexander's military genius lay in his ability to adapt to different enemies and terrains, utilizing a combined arms approach that integrated infantry, cavalry, and siege weaponry. The Roman Republic, emerging from a series of conflicts with neighboring city-states, established a powerful military system based on discipline, organization, and adaptability. The Roman legions, renowned for their professionalism and effectiveness, expanded the Roman Republic's influence, eventually transforming it into an empire. Rome's military success was intrinsically linked to its political system and its ability to integrate conquered peoples. Gap 3S. The medieval era saw the rise of knights and castles, defining the landscape of warfare in Europe. Knights, clad in armor, became the elite warriors of their time. Castles, with their formidable defenses, served as both fortresses and symbols of power. The feudal system, with its complex web of allegiances, shaped the nature of conflict. Battles were often fought over land and honor, with chivalry playing a significant role. The Crusades, a series of religious wars, further exemplified the era's martial spirit. These conflicts, driven by faith and ambition, left a lasting impact on both Europe and the Middle East. The medieval period also saw the development of new military technologies, such as the longbow and the trebuchet. These innovations changed the dynamics of warfare, making it more deadly and strategic. The legacy of the medieval era is still evident in the castles and chivalric traditions that endure to this day. Gap 3S. The introduction of gunpowder revolutionized warfare, leading to the development of cannons and muskets. These new weapons rendered traditional fortifications obsolete and changed the nature of battles. The age of gunpowder saw the rise of professional armies and the decline of feudal levies. The 30 Years' War, a devastating conflict in Europe, highlighted the destructive power of gunpowder weapons. This period also saw the emergence of new military tactics, such as the use of line infantry and artillery barrages. The Napoleonic Wars, led by Napoleon Bonaparte, further demonstrated the potential of gunpowder warfare. Napoleon's campaigns, characterized by rapid movement and decisive battles, reshaped the political landscape of Europe. The age of gunpowder laid the foundation for modern military strategy and technology. Gap 3S. The Industrial Age brought about significant advancements in military technology and logistics. The development of railways, telegraphs, and steamships transformed the way wars were fought. The American Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War showcased the impact of industrialization on warfare. The First World War, with its trench warfare and mechanized battles, marked a turning point in military history. Tanks, airplanes, and machine guns became the new instruments of war. The Second World War further demonstrated the potential of mechanized warfare, with massive tank battles and strategic bombing campaigns. The Industrial Age also saw the rise of total war, where entire nations mobilized for conflict. The legacy of this era is evident in the modern military-industrial complex and the continued evolution of warfare technology. Gap 3S. The advent of nuclear weapons ushered in a new era of warfare, characterized by the threat of mutually assured destruction. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki demonstrated the devastating power of nuclear weapons. The Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, was defined by the nuclear arms race. Both superpowers developed vast arsenals of nuclear weapons, leading to a precarious balance of power. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, highlighting the dangers of this new era. The end of the Cold War saw a reduction in nuclear arsenals, but the threat of nuclear conflict remains. The nuclear age has also seen the rise of new forms of warfare, such as cyber warfare and drone strikes. The legacy of this era is a world where the potential for catastrophic conflict looms large, but where diplomacy and international cooperation offer hope for a more peaceful future. As the 21st century unfolds, a new battlefield emerges, the digital realm. Cyber warfare, characterized by state-sponsored hacking, espionage, and sabotage, has become a crucial aspect of modern conflict. Nations now invest heavily in cyber capabilities to defend their infrastructure and disrupt enemy operations. From power grids to financial systems, the stakes are higher than ever. One notable example is the Stuxnet virus, a sophisticated cyber weapon that targeted Iran's nuclear facilities, demonstrating the potential for digital attacks to cause physical damage. Cyber attacks can cripple economies, steal sensitive information, and even influence political outcomes. The 2016 US presidential election highlighted the power of cyber interference in democratic processes. As technology evolves, so do the methods of cyber warfare. Artificial intelligence and quantum computing promise to revolutionize both offensive and defensive strategies. The rise of cyber warfare has led to the creation of specialized military units and international cooperation to combat these invisible threats. The NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence is one such initiative, fostering collaboration among member nations. Despite efforts to secure digital frontiers, the rapid pace of technological advancement means that the cyber battlefield is constantly shifting. Vigilance and innovation are essential to staying ahead of potential adversaries. In this new era of warfare, the keyboard and mouse have become as mighty as the sword and shield, redefining what it means to protect and attack. As we navigate this digital frontier, the balance between security and freedom remains a delicate one, shaping the future of global conflict and cooperation. The dawn of cyber warfare marks a turning point in human history, where the battle for control extends into the virtual world, challenging us to rethink our strategies and defenses. Gap 3S. The future of warfare is here, and it is digital. As we look to the stars, the next battlefield emerges: space. Space warfare, once the stuff of science fiction, is now a reality as nations and private entities vie for control over this final frontier. Satellites, essential for communication, navigation, and surveillance, have become strategic assets and potential targets. The race to militarize space began during the Cold War with the launch of Sputnik and the Apollo missions, but today it has evolved into a complex theater of operations. Anti-satellite weapons, or ASATs, have been developed by several countries, capable of destroying or disabling satellites and creating dangerous debris fields. In 2007, China successfully tested an ASAT weapon, shattering one of its own satellites and raising alarms about the fragility of space infrastructure. The United States and Russia have also demonstrated similar capabilities, signaling a new era of space-based deterrence and conflict. Space Force, a branch of the US military, was established to protect American interests in space and ensure the security of its assets. Other nations are following suit, forming their own space defense units to safeguard their satellites and space missions. International treaties like the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 aim to prevent the weaponization of space. But the rapid advancements in technology and the strategic importance of space assets make this a challenging goal. The line between peaceful exploration and military exploitation is becoming increasingly blurred. As we push the boundaries of human ingenuity, the potential for conflict in space grows. Space warfare not only threatens the safety of astronauts and the integrity of space missions, but also has profound implications for life on Earth. The destruction of critical satellites could disrupt global communications, navigation systems, and even financial markets. The final frontier is no longer just a domain for exploration, but a contested space where the future of warfare will be decided. As nations prepare for this new battleground, the need for international cooperation and regulation becomes more pressing than ever. The challenge lies in balancing the pursuit of technological advancement with the imperative to maintain peace and security in the vast expanse of space. The dawn of space warfare marks a pivotal moment in human history where the quest for dominance extends beyond our planet, challenging us to rethink our strategies and defenses. The future of warfare is not just digital, it is interstellar. As we stand on the precipice of unprecedented technological advancements, the future of warfare is a complex tapestry woven with threads of innovation, strategy, and ethical dilemmas. From artificial intelligence and autonomous drones to enhanced cyber capabilities and bioengineered soldiers, the battlefield of tomorrow will be unlike any we have known. AI-driven systems are already transforming military operations, offering unparalleled precision and efficiency. Autonomous drones can conduct surveillance, perform targeted strikes, and even engage in dogfights without human intervention. These machines, capable of learning and adapting, raise profound questions about the role of human judgment and moral responsibility in warfare. Cyber warfare, already a critical component of modern conflicts, will become even more sophisticated. Nations will deploy advanced algorithms to infiltrate and disrupt enemy networks, manipulate information, and safeguard their own digital infrastructure. The invisible battles fought in cyberspace will shape the outcomes of physical confrontations and influence global power dynamics. The rise of biotechnology presents both opportunities and challenges. Bioengineered soldiers, enhanced with superior strength, speed, and cognitive abilities, could change the very nature of combat. However, the ethical implications of such advancements are immense, prompting debates about the sanctity of human life and the potential for misuse. Quantum computing, still in its infancy, promises to revolutionize encryption and decryption, making current security measures obsolete. The race to develop quantum supremacy will define the next era of secure communications and intelligence gathering. As we venture into this new era, the lines between science fiction and reality blur. The future of warfare is not just about new weapons and tactics, but about navigating the ethical landscape and ensuring that technological advancements serve to protect and preserve humanity. The dawn of this new age challenges us to rethink our strategies, our defenses, and our very conception of what it means to engage in conflict. As we move forward, the imperative to balance innovation with ethical considerations has never been more critical. The future of warfare is upon us, and with it comes both the promise of unprecedented capabilities and the peril of